that this time it's Divine Aurora on your blue side, and we've got Nebulae on your red. And last time, Nebulae had that Lyra pickup alongside Lance and Sky. So what do you think about that as the first ban?
I personally don't think that, Lyra was really the cause of the bulk of Divine Aurora's problem. But the Lance being picked up first, definitely a good pick for the side of Divine Aurora. Lance at this point in time provides a lot of CCs and a lot of crowd controls throughout, and scales just very, very well. Granted, you do not have the healing that Grace can provide. However, the side of Divine, or rather the side of Nebulae, can easily just pick up maybe that of Finn. Finn is kind of good at this point in time. If not, then Arden as well, just to boost that movement speed and that extra health barrier on top of that. So, but we will be seeing a Finn and a Castro being banned out.
Okay, well, that Finn pickup, I mean, both teams doing a similar strategy, I could say, to what they did before about picking the roamers first, but this time, instead of two very aggressive roamers like we saw last time, Grace was not a bad pick at all. I thought that the Lance and Grace pick first off last game were very good, but perhaps Nebulae picking this Finn to fit more into that strategy, and Finn's starting to come back into the meta a bit more these days. We've seen him being played a lot more, but they're going to pick up that Sky once again. And this is where I'm slightly confused. I personally thought that Lyra ban was a good ban. I thought they were going for it to try deter and get the side of Nebulae away from picking that Sky, because last time in that whole laning phase, Sky was able to sustain quite well during the early game thanks to Lyra. It could be something similar if you like to look at it, with the fact that, well, Sky will be in the lane as long as Finn is close enough. Polite company will keep Sky from taking so much damage, in that sense sustaining Sky a bit more, but usually you wouldn't pick very mobile heroes with Finn, just because you need to keep him close to make full usage of your abilities, and Idris was let through. Last time we did see the Idris ban coming out in the second slot for the red team, which was Divine Aurora last time, and they're now going to pick him up themselves.
Yep, I mean, Idris it worked very, very well with that of Lance. I'm not surprised if they'll settle for that Taka. Wait. They are just, messing with my head right now. With the Sky, usually people want to settle for the Taka, as we all know. You can go for the Shatterglass Clockwork build, burst Sky down, and afterwards the entirety of Nebulae would not have a carry anymore. But opting for a weapon Lance and a Catherine, I guess all in all it is relatively decent as a comp, but hyper carrying an Idris against Sky, you need to run that weapon Idris, yeah? So you can stick on to Sky, you can blink past Sky Suri Strike, if not then Fort Barrage. That way you are very mobile as a hero. Whereas your CP Idris, you really want to have the Chakram damage, your basic attack, your range damage as well. It is like pitting a fox going up against a Sky. Will you do fine? Yeah, I guess you do fine relatively well, but having a Sky, he can just outdance you all in all. However, we will be seeing Angry Die this time on that Taka.
Well, it will be Iron You Die on that Taka indeed, but the team comp coming out from Nebulae, it's good. I mean, they don't have the Taka going against them, but I am rather confused as to why the side of Divine Aurora didn't pick up that Taka in the first place. So I guess they just want to go weapon-powered Lance. They saw that as working well last time. It is a good lockdown comp. They do have the Impale and the Merciless Pursuit there for CC, and it should help out if they're going CP to land those Chakram hits and get the full damage coming out from the incoming and outgoing Chakram. So we'll have to see how it plays out. But because I'm a bit confused, chat, let me know which team you guys are cheering for and which team you were going to put your hype towards for this second matchup between Divine Aurora and Nebulae as we get ready to head on to the fold. But with that, Luxuria, always the question of which team are you cheering for?
I must say it will be Nebulae. Although the team coming out from Nebulae, it's rather different, interesting, but I guess it will work because as long as Trophies is farmed up, get the 3 core items, can put a lot of damage, and on top of that as well, Idris cannot run far with that Force Accord, and you have Taka to just chase down anyways. Taka being so mobile should be able to just, dodge out the roots, and of course the impales and the Githian Wall coming up from Lance. If Taka can manage to do that, jump on top of Idris, remove Idris really, really quickly, then Lance would just be no fight whatsoever in any team fights, right? It would not pose as a threat. All in all, a very thick wall in terms of Finn. Finn, very, very slow hero, so might allow that of the CP Idris to get his way because of the Chakram. But all in all, I think Finn can hold, or rather soak up relatively a lot of damage, or relatively enough damage for Sky to just put out 2 times or even 3 times damage in that late game. So what I'm expecting to see will be early aggression coming out from maybe the side of Diva, and for the side of Nebulae, we will be seeing a rather passive adventure coming into this game.
Okay, well, with that, I think that if you're going to put it that way, I'm still a bit on the fence as well. It really is going to be how much Divine Aurora can push that early aggression, and I think it will be quite important to make sure they shut down that Sky early on, and even Taka worry about depending on which way this Taka decides to build. But something I didn't think about until now is we're going to be seeing a weapon power Taka. So that didn't cross my mind before, and I'm just wondering about the effectiveness as compared to a CP Taka.
Well, honestly, for a weapon power Taka, you don't really have your ability damage. But what you have going for you is very high base attack power. And with that,
and Higher Angry die getting caught out instantly. The polite company not going to be enough to help him get out of there. That was the Merciless Pursuit into the Impale, into the Githian Wall, I believe. And then the Chakram to just clean up with some more damage. Oh my, the side of Divine Aurora. If they can continue getting single picks off like that, I think that will be tough for Doubtfire on this Finn to really protect his team, and this is what I liked about the Great's pickup. It's a bit more mobile, it's a bit more aggressive, and Finn not being a bad roamer, it's just if your team is out of position, it's very hard for you to get to them to save them.
Yep, definitely, but what happened there was Dai got stuck in the root from the Elder Treant and thus unable to just dodge out all the damage. But all in all, it was a rather incredible reaction time coming out from Iron Dai on that Taka. Oh, but we do see Sky though picking up the Catherine in late.
Yeah, there's one good point about picking up Sky for the side of Nebula. They've got the Catherine on the enemy team. Sky very good at ripping through that Stormguard shield and able to put the damage down fairly easily. We're going to see the first rotation back. Trophy's now with 22 farms, so doing a good job of farming on their own, but we'll have to see whether the side of Nebulae want to continue to give or hyper carry Trophies on this Sky this time, because Iron Dai is going to have quite a lot of trouble in the early game, I'd say. Do you think this Taka needs those kind of items that like a lot more important than if you're playing on this weapon power lance that we see on the side of Divine Aurora and that we saw previously for Nebulae?
Yep, definitely. I mean, Taka, all in all, if he is going to run that weapon Taka, then you need relatively quite an amount of items to work effectively, just to put on as many basic attacks, just to stack the mortal wound as well. So, Iron Dai probably will settle for that Spell Sword. Spell Sword works relatively well with Taka. Granted, Glaive is the better contender for Spell Sword, but all in all, I think it will be well for Iron Dai. But at this point in time, we have seen a lot of Takas in Southeast Asia just deciding to go Iron Dai here, though taking a lot of damage from Neon Sea on that lance, but will just back off. But all in all, in Southeast Asia, we see a lot of double weapon blades pick up on Taka in the early game just to aid the farming. and all in all, just to deal up more damage onto enemies' hero.
Sky needing to be careful is getting surrounded by the team of Divine Aurora, and they get caught out by the Impale. It's going to land right on there, picking up a nice kill. Tension Bow proc, I think, was still available for them, seeing as it's Nion's only item. They rushed that instantly as soon as they could, and now they're going to try to get some damage in return onto this turret. And very good job with the Githian wall to push away Iron Gudai as they returned up to that lane, stopping them from engaging onto anyone. But you can see there, Truffy's positioning themselves in the top rush. They want to get some damage down onto Spitfire, but this is where I brought up the problem before. Doubtfire just not being able to get close enough to his teammates to save them. The Polite Company is meant to be able to make up for that generally, but it's rarely not enough, whereas with a hero like if they had picked up Grace as their roamer, Grace would have been able to jump in and then possibly knock up the enemies with Holy Nova, then allowing for a much more safer escape, whereas with having the spin and the Polite Company, it's only going to add a bit more defense, and then you're not really going to get Truffy's out of there because they're still going to get locked down with the stuns.
Yep, but what we're going to see here would be Iron Gudai on a CP Taka building towards a Storm Crown, and then of course we have Truffy's going for that Weapon Sky build. Tons of basic attack damage, very fast basic attack damage if you don't ask me. Probably going to settle for that Breaking Point into Double Tyrant's Monaco. If not, then Breaking Point, Tyrant's Monaco, and then Tornado Trigger. That is one build that I've seen quite often as well. But all in all, I do not sit well with a Weapon Sky. I mean, I've seen it well before, but the issue with Weapon Sky really is that you can't quite, or rather you don't have the ability to just be very, very strong in the late game. You are kind of iffy in your positioning, your stance, right? So you are kind of weak in the early game. You deal relatively quite an amount of damage in the early game, but comes the mid game, you deal your most damage. But once people stack armor up on you, then in the late game, you just do close to nothing.
Oh, and we see right there, Iron Gudai but getting stunned up instantly, and there's the aggression. Oh, Truffy's dodging that out barely with a Surrey Strike, and then Nionc gonna get caught up in the death from above. Amazing positioning. Can Iron Gudai pick up the kill? They will, and that's going to be a good kill in return, and helps push away the side of Divine Aurora, who are putting down a lot of aggression up in lane for most of this game so far. And you could just see that, it shows that although it's a weapon power Sky this time, and you might be a bit worried for it because of the previous success rate and stuff. But this is Truffy's on Sky, and I'm interested. I am personally a CP Sky main and fan, and I do prefer that, but I'm definitely interested to see how this weapon power Sky works out for them. And I think if anyone's going to do it, Truffy's could, because you see the just general skills and mechanics are still there. But now we see that looks like Idris getting caught out up in lane. Protector's Contract was used to keep Spitfire alive, stop him from taking a bit more damage. So it's interesting to see that on the side of Divine Aurora that picked up that Protector's Contract, but you'd think with the engage coming out from this side, coming out from Divine Aurora, that Nebulae would also go for a Protector's Contract because there's so much dive.
Well, I mean, Protector's Contract is one of those items you pick up in the very early in the game itself.
Yeah, I understand that. I mean, if they were to have picked that instead of the normal contract that they have on Finn at the start of the match.
No, but I guess because Spitfire in itself, as an Idris, you do not do a lot of damage in that of the early game. So putting that into account, you don't quite need to say, pick up that that contract to provide that health barrier anyways, because Delphi provides relatively good health barrier, or rather not health barrier, but fortified health in terms of that Polite Company. So with that, then they don't really need to pick up the Protector's Contract. Maybe the Iron Guard will work, maybe that... So, I'll just have to hold my point.
Oh, well, it looks like the team's just poking back and forth. We should be good to continue talking about, because I think at this point, even if we see Taka jump onto the backline, there's not going to be any kills going down, but there's the Caster's Curse slowly in the works as we see a lot of damage being traded across the board. And yeah, it looks like Taka going to back out of that fight, so if you'd like to, I want to say if you'd like to continue your point, but Divine Aurora being so aggressive right now, they're going all in. There's the Impale into the Githian wall, and Idris going to pick it up with the Chakram, but Taka returning up to lane. I'm not sure what the two of them can do. Angry Die and Truffy's trying to fight this one. There's the Shimmer Strike onto Truffy's, and the stun followed up by Majin, but Majin now on the run away from that weapon power Sky, and Angry Die probably going to be able to pick up a return kill, and they did. So Roma for Roma right now, fairly even across the board. We got 3-3 kills and 19k gold on the side of Divine Aurora over to the 19.9 for the side of Nebulae, and we saw just before Angry Die able to steal away some farm, but whether they're going to get caught out here between Nyan and Spitfire is the question. No, they're going to be able to use the X-Retsu over Nyan and get out of there.
Yep, and this is, okay, to continue on my point, having the protected contract in that early game will definitely grant health barrier on top of the fortified health, but I don't think that is quite needed, especially with the range coming up from Sky as well, as compared to an Idris. So I guess the Iron Guard would help in terms of sustain against an Idris. If Idris do come in to try to go in a 1v1 with you, then you do 8 with the sustain, but I might have to hold my thought.
Yeah, as we see Truffy's going very low, Fountain, you get them of there alive, and whether Divine Aurora decide to push this one now that they have forced the Fountain out from the side of Nebulae is a question, and the answer is yes, as they go in with Impale, and it's going to be Lance diving in deep. He manages to pick up a kill, but trades his own life for it. Not sure if that's the outcome you want to see, because Iron Die is still up in the lane, and they're going to be looking for Spitfire. They should wait a second longer for the fortified health to go down, because they're going to fall to this Idris, but Doubtfire does not have the mobility to chase and pick up a kill. Are they going to be able to get with it? No, not quite. The Polite Company not reaching, and they might fall themselves. It looks like they will. Spitfire playing a very risky game and manages to get out of it alive, pushing the kill lead in favor of the side of Divine Aurora and pushing that gold lead to even now.
Yep, and this is something that I was talking about as well. For a Weapon Sky, you really want to stay in a team fight for a very long time because of just the basic attack, and you are going to use Suri Strike to just reposition yourself, and it's not quite, you know, I don't think it's quite meta, and I don't think it has found itself into the meta only because of this reason, because your basic attack in general, or rather your kit in itself, do not quite support this weapon build.
Yep, and we see the first turret falling over to the side of Divine Aurora as they're able to pick it up. They definitely have the advantage right now, but whether they're going to be able to keep it is the question, as both teams kind of looking for a fight here. And Majin going to lose that shield in just a second, but Angry Die dodging out the Impale, going very low. The CP Idris almost picking up the kill. Fountain being used to save his life, though. Meanwhile, it looks like the Forster Core going to be up to land. They're just trying to find something out of this. Merciless Pursuit lands onto Angry Die, who needs to be very careful now. They have Bukaku available for a bit of heal, but the damage and return coming out from Divine Aurora quite impressive as well. Both teams have their Fountain down, so it's the question of whether they still want to fight and if they have the confidence in it. Of course, Taka has Bukaku available to constantly continue healing up, but it looks like Divine Aurora going to go in with the steal, and there's the Impale to get it. And meanwhile, we see Doubtfire going low, and Sky on the backline getting picked up by Spitfire. Taka just running for his life, doesn't want to hand over the ace, is actually going to stay around to farm, knows he has Bukaku around. He is a ninja, of course. Is he going to be able to get something from it? He dives onto Nancy and gets a kill. I guess they didn't expect Taka to still be around.
Yeah, but I guess that is quite a good kill for Taka, but Idris coming back for more.
Oh, and there's Bukaku used. He's fairly low in energy right now and has to back out of that fight.
Yeah, but all in all, I must say that the team comp of Nebulae, they are not the worst team comp, if you were to ask me, but all in all, what is happening right now is that Truffy's cannot put out enough damage as compared to, say, Neon Sea with that very burst, you know, high burst, Tension Bolt, and Sorrow Blade. And on top of that as well, or rather Spitfire on their CP Idris has got very high burst as well. So none of these heroes really want to stay in a team fight for way too long, but Trophies wants to. Trophy's end goal is just to stay in there, build up as much breaking point stacks as possible, and then just destroy and demolish everyone on the fold. But CP Idris and a Weapon Lance don't want to quite do that. They just want to burst you down and get done and over with.
Well, it's definitely very similar to last game, except the roles have been switched around. This time Divine Aurora being that team really looking for the lockdown. And I guess that's why the Finn pickup isn't so bad in the end, because you know that Divine Aurora are going to be jumping onto you. The question is whether you're going to be in the right position when they do to save your carries, as I kept mentioning before. And we'll have to see here as Doubtfire using Polite Company, followed up by the Quibble, managed to get the stun, but Death from Above not going to land. Sky using great positioning on that Surrey Strike to get around, but Spitfire needs to be careful now whether he's going to focus Trophies or Angry Die. Instead uses the the Shimmer Strike. I always call it the Shroud Step and the Shimmer... No, I always call it the Shroud Strike and the Shimmer Step. I get them mixed up. But we see that great usage of that as they're able to get out there, and there's the block coming off, and a bit presumptuous with that Death from Above, thinking that they'd be able to get them all in that, and Margin diving in deep might pay the price for it, but meanwhile it's going to allow the rest of the team on Divine Aurora to get into the backline, picking up a kill on Sky. Angry Die going to fall, but manages to take Catherine with him, and it's only Doubtfire left on this Finn, just eating up the damage, and that's going to be the ace for the side of Divine Aurora.
And this is what I'm talking about. Neon Sea went in with an Impale, immediately taking out Trophies. And they are, the side of Tifa really don't want to just play around and just extend and elongate a team fight. Whereas if you say it is quite a reflection of the previous match itself, in the previous match we have Vox, we have that of, say, Black Feather, and from the side of Nebula came out with that of Lance and Sky. So granted, the Lance in the previous match really just want to peel for Sky, but it's generally just a very stagnated fight all in all, not very bursty. Oh, I will die.
Yep, and we do see the burst on Divine Aurora now as jump in onto that Taka, not able to kill the kill, however. Blast Trap was used to push away Nebulae, but they need to push in onto this turret and get the damage that they need. Make the most out of this Kraken. Death from Above's going to zone them out, and they should have taken this turret a bit sooner, but they managed to get in the end. They're now diving in full force right onto Doubtfire, and it's going to be the return kill onto that Lance, who dived into the front line too deep. A double kill for the side of Nebula, and they're just trying to keep Sky alive at this point. Are they going to be able to burn through the shield? And they will. A triple kill for the weapon power. Sky, very impressive. All the meanwhile, Angry Die just diving all over the backline, just dancing around in the chaos, I should say. And they managed to save that anchor turret just barely. So somehow Nebulae managed to turn that one around. And yeah, it's the previous statement of it being similar, at least the side of Divine Aurora. It's similar to they picked up Nebulae's I guess strategy, except this time they're not so focused on the hyper carry as much. Do you think that would have worked out for them better if they had gone for a hyper carry situation and left a low budget kind of Lance build?
I personally will not. I mean, Spitfire now has 3 core items building towards the Shatter Glass, if not that, yeah, probably that Shatter Glass, or if not then Eve of Harvest. I've seen quite a number of Eve of Harvest on CP Idris, all in all. But what is happening if they do, I mean, Lance is building relatively budgetly, right? Economically, he's not having a lot of damage, but he's just very, very high burst. But another team fight will be happening.
They managed to get the Merciless Pursuit onto Trophies to lock them down, but Angry Die going to take the opportunity to jump in onto the backline through the Death from Above. So meanwhile, Divine Aurora is being forced back to that turret, but Nebulae yet to really land any significant damage onto this first objective, and we can see that Angry Die trying to focus down Spitfire, but great predictions coming out by Neon Sea, able to land that Impale as Taka was actually flipping back over, and there's going to be a good block. And then the Echo use of that Impale. Trophies trying to do their best to get out of this situation, but actually going to use the Surrey Strike to go the other way, and Oh, Doubtfire using the Force Accord, but a second too late. Instead, just brings Nancy closer to them and brings the side of Divine Aurora closer to the ace and possibly the game. We see Angry Die up in 4 seconds, but what can he do alone? The rest of his team still miles away before they get up, and there's both turrets going down simultaneously. Angry Die going to jump in there, try and do what he can, try and take it out this Idris at least, but the Crystal is going to go down before he can even get that. And that's going to be the game going over to the side of Divine Aurora. Very much opposite game of what we saw in the first round.
Yep, and honestly, I really like the echo picked up on the side of this weapon lance, but all in all, it's just that Trophies really like the initial burst damage, all in all, and thus the side of Diva could just capitalize on the lack of damage coming out from Trophies before he builds that breaking point stacks, and they just jump in and just was very relentless with their onslaught, and the amount of damage put out by the CP Idris and this weapon lance with an echo was just immense.
Yeah, and